Hi, you're listening to Playing Out from the Bar. Please be aware this podcast contains strong language.
Right, can I go now?
Tins now on Apple, which is good. All 5-star.
That's good, isn't it?
We're nearing 1,000 now, aren't we? I think we've got like 8, 9 we had.
Yeah, I was going to mention that in the intro, actually.
I'd like to see someone critique it and go like a 3 stars and be like, yeah, it's all right, but
Room for improvement.
could be better.
Right, welcome back to the virtual bar, everyone, where after a difficult week in the news world, we've assembled for an emergency opening of the bar to boost spirits. The Lewises of Dobbs and Trice, you're with me to pep up our spirits tonight. Welcome to the bar this evening. What are we drinking this week? Trice, I'm going to come to you first.
Hi mate, Happy New Year to both of you. I think this is the first one of 2021, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I should have added
I think
Happy
it
New
could
Year.
be, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
very
Happy New
bad
Year.
of me, actually, yeah.
I am still on my Northern Whisper shoestring today, 5% session ale.
Lovely.
Nice.
That looks
Yeah.
nice.
What about you two?
Well, I'm on a Brewdog Punk IPA, postmodern classic, as it says in the bottle. 5.4%, 330ml. This is one actually that I, again, like going back to like some of the first episodes we did, and I was just had these random beers that have been left over by people. Well, I dug this out of like a freezer bag that we've got out on the balcony. That's been there for must have been there like 3 months. There's like some random bottles of like spirits in there.
That must be cold by now.
Yeah, it's really cold given the temperature outside. But because we've got a small fridge, so sometimes we just have to put bottles outside on the balcony, which in winter is absolutely fine. And I've got some Carlins out there, which I was going to go for, but then I realised that I'd found this like one bottle left over. So yeah, it's much better than I feel bad saying that, but it's a nice change from a Carlin.
I was just going to add in that, and I don't know what this says about my views of what I thought this podcast was going to be before we got started, but I'm amazed at the lack of Carling we've had selected from the bar so far. We're not, you two aren't really doing your reputation any favours as like
I think that's the
Carling
COVID.
lovers.
Yeah, that's the coronavirus pandemic, that, Jack. I think if we were originally like we planned to do this in actual pubs as opposed to virtually, I think we would have been there every week by now. But
The Carling wouldn't have left the menu.
Yeah, as I said previously, as the lockdown worsened, so did the temptation for beer deliverers, I think. So that's where we're at.
It's one of the only things you can be creative about at the minute. Like, what do you get delivered? And obviously, like, beer's one of them. That's one good thing to come out of this. Like, I opened my eyes to different beers. But I was pretty, just happy with the same 3 or 4 beers over and over again. Whereas now, probably widen that to like 7 or 8.
At least there's one good positive from the pandemic, don't we? Your ever-growing collection of beers. I'm on the I was on the whiskey earlier because I was listening to. We discussed getting record players in last week's episode, I think, didn't we? Or we might have discussed it off air. But that was my go-to drink for listening to records. But I've actually switched now, and I'm on a Sauvignon Blanc anyway. Although Trice just reminded me that actually he gave us a nice tip off on those free beers that were being offered by Brewdog yesterday. I don't know if any of our listeners also got in on that free Brewdog action, then let us know. But yeah, shout out to them for.
Yeah, fair play to them.
I'm expecting my delivery anytime this week. So cheers for that, Trice. I suppose we should probably move on. We're just going to, I think, focus on positives only this week because we don't really need.
It was a huge negative.
We don't really need to focus anymore on the week we've just had back in lockdown. So yeah, I mean, obviously a difficult week, boys, but if there's anything positive you want to mention, I was meant to actually still be working this weekend at Manchester City West Ham WSL game yesterday, and then even that got called off for COVID issues. So I really have had the most boring, not a lot going on weekend, but in a way that's been nice. Any positives you want to mention? Any light that you found from this week?
Go on, Dobby. Give us some positives.
Actually, confirmed some priorities for new company car in a couple of months. That's quite exciting.
Oh, lovely.
Something to look forward to, isn't it? So mine's like about to need to hand it back at the end of March, and spent the last month or so having a look over some lists that have been sent out and just sent through some preferred options. So hopefully hear back about that in the next week or so and get that confirmed. So
what was draft pick number 1 in the company car?
It's a Mercedes CLA. Yeah, it's
bloody hell.
It's quite nice. Yeah, to be fair, we didn't get a bad offering really. Just like a really long list of different cars, like a few different Mercedes on there, and I was a bit blinded by brands really. So it was. I think when you're enjoying having company cars at an early stage, it's just. I think you just try and pick something out that you think looks the nicest, and I'm sure as you age, it becomes a bit more practical and cost effective. But no, I thought it was nice, and it's a bit of positivity, especially with everything that's going on. And
something
even
to look forward to, isn't it?
Yeah, like with work as well. We've had a lot of complications around Brexit, and it does make it. There's more concern than positives at times. So when you can draw a positive out of work, it is quite nice. So yeah, I'll go with that.
Nice stuff, Trice. Anything you want to mention, mate?
Yeah, just a simple thing really. So where I live, we've had snow since pretty much Christmas Eve. It's been the Alps.
I did see that on your Instagram, and I was thinking, God, I've had nothing here, and we're not exactly at other ends of the country. So, but yeah, go on, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, we're quite high up, and snow since Christmas Eve. So this weekend, just been able to do sledging and build snowmen and stuff like that with Alfie for the first time is pretty special.
Nice.
Just on the, that reminds me actually, slight sidetrack, but I don't know if either of you two ever get this sort of on this day thing on Facebook, but mine was cropping up a lot this week of 11 years ago, I think, when it snowed really bad in North Lincolnshire, and right. I was basically a sort of before my time Sky Sports News for just is school on or off. My Facebook every day, every status update from me back then was just school's on or heard a rumour that school might be off. And I was just constantly updating everyone on the status. I'm not sure who was giving me that inside information, but I'd just like to take this opportunity to apologise to anyone who was having to read my Facebook posts.
Was you up at 7 a.m. on the phone to the secretary at school? I
think I was. I think I had Links FM on from 6 a.m. in the morning. Is Winterton on the list? Fingers crossed. So yeah, I remembered that. Not really related to this week, but yeah, that was a bit of an odd memory. We'll just before we dive into the main theme of our bar visit this week, which is going to be all about positivity in football to try and lift the mood after what has been a very trying week. Quick visit to the social corner, boys, where I'm assuming you've both seen this by now, but yesterday, obviously, non-league Chorley FC progressed into the next round of the FA Cup, and they celebrated by singing Adele, Someone Like You, which apparently, had they done this in previous rounds?
Apparently it's like a common thing from what I'd briefly heard. It happens regularly. So
because I'd not really seen it before yesterday, and then obviously I saw it, and I know we had we had the Scotland team celebrating with Yes Sir I Can Boogie before Christmas, which
that was superb.
I absolutely loved. I absolutely loved that song. I'm not quite as big an Adele fan, but I just wonder what sort of trajectory are we going in with footballers celebrating with these songs in the dressing room? Because how far are we away from a team celebrating with an ABBA song, or is that is that too far?
I think that's quite close. Yeah, I think the celebration, the cringy music comes out. I'm not saying that Adele's cringy, but I think it's more likely to. It makes a nice change to just I think. From what I see of professional football, the ones I follow on Instagram, people like Drake is just a bit of a soundtrack for the Premier League. I'm quite glad there's something a bit different, to be honest.
I wonder what Adele's views are on it. I wonder if she's been sat at home and got wind of it.
I wonder if Adele's
some blokes in Chorley are belting out your song after winning an FA Cup game.
I wonder if she's now going to become a Chorley fan, or I can just see her getting sent a signed team shirt or something, all for a bit of PR later on in the cup run.
Maybe she'll sing them out at the next round.
That's the dream.
Like when Motorhead used to sing Triple H out at WrestleMania. You could have Adele singing Charlie out in the FA Cup.
I mean, it is basically the same, isn't it? It'd even be better if it was still behind closed doors. I think that'd make it even stranger. I mean, I saw in the newspapers this morning, after the game, Chorley assistant manager Andy Trice told the media, "It's just a special song to us. We know all the words." That was his quote, but like it still doesn't explain. It's not really an up-tempo song. Like, when did they first put it on?
Yeah.
Who was like the first one to sing all the words? It just a lot of unanswered questions about that.
I like to think someone kind of was like, it obviously instigated it, and then turned up with some lyric sheets and was like, "Right, lads,
passing them around the
go
change
home, familiarise yourself as of next week. This is what we're going for."
How I see that, I reckon from sort of personal experience, the person who's in charge of the music after the game will be quite a strong personality.
Yeah.
And like Adele might have slipped on once after a win, and everyone's laughed at him. But I reckon it's everyone really buzzed off it at the time, so it stayed. Like, you don't change it if it's not broke. Don't change it.
That's true, actually. Yeah, I love that the randomness of that. That's the appeal, I think. Definitely, Trice. I'm not sure. Yeah, I want to find out how Scotland got into Baccarat as well. That was interesting.
I know this. That's what's one of the players called? Their centre half is like in his 30s. His name slips me. Anyway, he sang it. He basically did it on his stag do and like paid for like a proper music video on his stag do, and then I think he plays for Aberdeen possibly, and like their fans started singing it, and then whenever he went away with Scotland, like the players started singing it. I think that's how
that's class.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I'd actually, I can get behind that. That was really good. Yeah. Well, the other thing I wanted to bring up, actually, I mean, this is not strictly related to the social corner, but I thought this could be another sort of regular topic for us to discuss alongside social corner and Pele's bullshit, which are obviously our two running features on the show. This is I just want to call this section "Basic Bitch Football Opinions." And for those that don't know, like a basic bitch opinion is like someone who loves X Factor or engages or watches EastEnders. Engages in like typical unoriginal behaviours or modes of dress or speech, that type of thing. So on the football front, I don't know what sort of lines I'm going to go down, but I don't know if you two had any suggestions on this, but what would be like a basic bitch football opinion? I was thinking something like someone saying, "I don't watch the Premier League anymore because there's too much diving." Like that to me seems like a basic. Yeah,
I think I probably have a basic bitch opinion on the Premier League. Too commercial.
Yeah, that's got some legitimacy as well, though. To be fair, Trice, which you've explained in previous episodes, but yeah, that could be one. I'm thinking like Roy Keane being an angry pundit as well. That's like quite a basic opinion. I don't know.
The one for me is when people like slag off. When people say like Burnley are shit, like they're not, because there's over 92 teams in the Football League and they are consistently in the top 15. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's quite easy to. I hate that when someone's saying he's sat in a pub or he's crap. Like, probably.
Yeah.
Their midfielders have probably played like 200 games now in the Premier League. You're doing that for a reason. Like, you're not.
That's a great one, Trice. I like that. I think as well. I've just thought of one. When people say the FA Cup, it's not what it used to be. Like people love trouting that out at this time of year. Regardless of how true it is or not. Dobby, have you got any to throw in, or should we come back to this?
No, I can't think of any off the top of my head, to be honest.
Maybe I'll get... If any of the listeners want to send in their basic bitch football opinions, then get in touch.
I am at a point of just being fed up of football opinions. Like,
everyone's got one, haven't they?
Yeah.
They're like arseholes.
Yeah. I did... Yeah, it's a nightmare. So I just stay clear of them nowadays, really, just because it's just such a waste of time.
Yeah.
If you go on social media, you just end up running into all sorts of shit.
Yeah. Or it's either shit or it's brilliant threads that we can bring onto this podcast at a later date.
I know, it's kind of salvaged by that.
Yeah.
Like, if you can just bypass the other 70%, there's like 30% of gold on there.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true. Yeah, all right. Well, we'll come back to that at a later date. But yeah, if anyone's got them, then perhaps we'll think about them over the course of this recording. As a sort of, we're going to come back now to a sort of side section from positivity, which is going to be the main theme of our episode this week. And for those that listened to part 2 of our Christmas special, will know we got deep into the world of university football, or college soccer, as it'll be known out there, in America. And we thought, as a sort of a follow-on from that, we would each be given a state college team to support for the remainder of the season. Now, Trice, you've managed to sort of organise am I right in calling this a random generator setup?
Yeah, like a spin to win, you can call it.
Wheel of Fortune.
A Wheel of Fortune setup.
Yeah.
So basically, we're all going to get a spin of the wheel, and whoever we pick, self-explanatory, but they will be our team for the remainder of the remainder of this podcast, really.
Is there any names we should be looking out for, Trice?
Well, yeah,
Any
that's
hot
a
picks?
good question, that, Dobby. So basically, I found what I believe is the equivalent of like books, or like the people who provide the sport at the unis, that governing body. I found their top 100 places for a scholarship in America, and so the context, basically, like the top 3 standards are like D1, D2, D3. Yeah. But there's loads. I mean, there's literally like 1,700 across those 3. I think there's about 207 or something in D1. Right. I mean, it's absolutely massive, isn't it? Yeah.
They got a lot of fixtures to get through.
So every club team is in there.
I thought we'd go through the top 100, and then basically, your usual big hitters there, your standard sort of, Harvard, ones like that. They're amongst it, Stanford and stuff like that. There's a few big hitters. UCLA spinning around, I can see.
I wonder. This actually shows my lack of knowledge on American universities. But who is like the Loughborough equivalent for America? Because like Loughborough's obviously the dominant sports university over here. Do they have an equivalent over there? Do we know?
I suspect they do regionally, but like even.
I think from this list, I think sort of your usual big hitters are still like the number one in everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So like Harvard and Yale aren't just like full of nerds who can't do sport. Like,
well, I think they're full of like sporty nerds who are gonna like work on Facebook's board type thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Is there any upcoming universities that were chucking money at it?
There was one, like.
I like it how Trice is now an expert on this. Just having to set up this generator. He's had to research like 100 teams.
This was something I prepped like 2 hours ago, so it's not that detailed. But there was one where it's like, it's got the word like miners in there, and it just made me think of like, miners' welfare.
I like the sound of that. We've got a 1 in 100 chance to get them, so.
Imagine if they come up now. So this is it, So we're gonna, for the listeners' benefit, we're gonna spin the Wheel of Fortune for one, or do we want to sort of join forces and have one team to support?
I mean, it brings a bit more conversation if we have each have a different one.
Yeah.
Give updates, I guess.
This is a bit like when we did the quiz and Dobby wanted to work together, but then wanted to go against Trice at the same time.
Trice, what was your thoughts when prepping this?
I was thinking maybe it would be a team for the podcast, but I'm happy to go individual.
Yeah, I think podcast team, because then we can stick with it a bit more.
And we're all in it together then. If they're shit, it won't just become a bit deflating for one individual.
Yeah.
So you two should be able to see the Wheel of Fortune on your screens now.
It's actually gone off my screen, Trice.
Has it?
Yeah.
Right, so Trice, are you about to hit spin or?
I'm going to spin. Yeah.
Virtually push the wheel.
Okay. Here we go. Thanks for playing.
I should say that for the listeners' benefit as well, there's coloured variation. So we've got some universities in blue, some in yellow, some in red, but I'm not sure what that actually represents.
Gonzaga University. That's our pick.
Who?
I mean, first question is, where is that?
And
what
immediately commence Googling of that name.
Gonzaga.
Gonzaga.
Well, if you put in Gonzaga, basketball comes up straight away. But
Gonzaga University. Let's see what their soccer team's like, Jack.
Washington. Ooh.
I like the sound of them. They, reminds me of Gonzalo Higuain.
They've got an 84% graduation rate, which I'm not really sure how I feel about that.
Is that higher than Loughborough?
None of the alumni are standing out to me.
Well,
can we see we
may have picked a dud here, lads, but perhaps that's fitting for this podcast. I mean,
what is there not a soccer team?
One sec, I think there is.
I think there is a
men's
team,
soccer.
But
the official men's soccer.
Have they played a game?
The signs. The signs.
No one's playing at the minute due to COVID, but
oh right, fair enough. Oh no, they've got a schedule.
They've signed someone, Caleb.
Only
18 years old.
What are you looking at, Dobby? Just their social media, or?
No, on their website.
Do you want me to find my list of the top 100? Let me see where they are on that. That might be good context.
Yeah, that might give us some sort of idea about current performance levels. I think
first game's against San Francisco on February 28th.
Oh, well, one to look forward to, boys.
We're Gonzaga fans now, definitely. Yeah.
Has their website just crashed because it's got 3 people from Britain trying to load it at the same time and it just can't handle it? Because I can't get on their website at the moment.
It's not very good. It's not really telling me a lot. It's just like a news page. I don't want to know the news.
I mean, have they got a Twitter account, or is that?
I was going to say, have we got any idea on just the kit?
Oh wait, yeah, they have. I think it's not specific to soccer. It's so they're called Gonzaga Bulldogs.
Nice.
Come on, the Bulldogs.
And
let's go Bulldogs.
Oh right, yeah, I found him. So yeah, they are 65th of the top 100 according to NCSASports.org.
Well, yeah, according to their Twitter, they've had 7 MLS draft picks in their history.
Wow.
Is that good? Or I mean, that sounds good.
They're shouting about it, Jack.
Yeah. I don't like how focused they are on basketball from the social media.
Yeah.
They need to get the priorities right.
What did you expect, really?
Well, I like this tweet. They've tweeted a sort of GIF. Well, not a GIF, but after a player scored a goal, and the team always tweets a shot of that player with that goal, and they've put this guy's, I don't even know what his full name is, but they've just called him Zags, and it says Zags breaking records on the field and in the classroom, and then with the hashtag United We Zag. So he could be like our MVP.
I think Zags is the name of the club because it's Gonzaga. Because I'm on their website and it says Zags United. So
I've just realised that.
Yeah. Come on, the Zags, yeah. I like
Zags United.
United We Zag is a great hashtag.
So are we more than happy that they're our university college team? I've got on that website, I've got the division that they're in. So they're in the West Coast Conference Division 1, which is the top tier.
Nice.
The coaches, I don't know if that plays into your thinking, does it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I think we've got to take what we can get, and they seem like a decent pick to me. I'm just looking at the kit as well. So it's manufactured by Nike, which is always a good sign, and it's kind of like a sort of striped red and dark blue affair. So yeah, lots of stuff to like.
It's good. It'll grow on us, I hope, as things develop. But yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to provide weekly updates. And I've just found up some absolute gold on their website, which is the Gonzaga fight song, the lyrics to it. Which I'm guessing is their anthem.
Can we get that played?
What they run out.
It's just the lyrics. I don't think there's an audio version to it. but it's called Go Gonzaga, and it starts with Gonzaga Bulldogs rally and fight. With hearts and hustle, triumph tonight. Defend the kennel with all your might. Bring glory to our alma mater. Mighty Bulldogs, answer the call, and champions we will be. I don't even know what that word is. Something pride. Defend the true blue and white. Fight on to victory. Gonzaga, Gonzaga, go Gonzaga, Gonzaga, go Gonzaga, Gonzaga.
Nice.
That goes on for a while, and yeah, then it kind of finishes off with another verse of that top bit. So
I think
okay.
we got all the sort of American fan stereotypes that Jason was talking about on the last podcast. A few of them are in that song. So yeah, I feel like we've found our home here, boys. This is a good team for us to get behind.
Up the Zags.
Up the Zags. Well, so when is that first fixture? Trice, February 21st, did you say?
I'm not sure.
I think it was, yeah.
One for the diary.
Yeah. We'll have to get up in the middle of the night to watch that.
We can maybe live stream it on our Facebook page.
3 a.m. alarm.
I think, but like for context here, right? When I was prepping this, I think we was maybe last week. I think maybe the top standard there. I think we were maybe a bit harsh to, because I watched a video of is it Stanford? Is that the top one? One of the top ones?
Yeah, big university. Yeah.
So in 2018, for content, this is what I was doing the other night, doing a night feed. They did a tour of the UK it was pre-season, and they, for context for the listeners, they beat Fulham's under-23s 4-1, and they absolutely battered like QPR under youth team, and then they beat Bradford's youth team as well quite convincingly. And I thought, like, are we the farmers?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe,
that's quite surprising.
Maybe we've underestimated the standard. Maybe we're going to watch them and like they'll be really good, and we'll just feel a bit sort of miffed that they're almost too good for us to support. But I'm glad we've got a team to get behind. That was good fun. Well done, Trice. Right, so we're going to move on to the second item of our agenda in the bar tonight, and just in keeping with the rest of the episode, really, we're going to talk about positive figures in football, and this can be a player, it can be a manager, just a social media account you follow, a journalist, anyone vaguely connected with the game. We've really opened this up. So I think Trice, you're the one who's pitched this idea for us. I think, are we all just going to select one and then sort of have it as sort of a triple threat standoff scenario? Is that what we're going for?
Yeah, if any listeners ever saw in the early 2000s Donald Trump, Vince McMahon's WWE Battle of the Billionaires, where you got someone to fight for you to solve out your own issues, that's how I sort of see this. Like, if you could pick one person to be positive for you, who would you pick and why? Yeah,
it's just like a really friendly, nice version of Battle of the Billionaires. Although, yeah, unlike Battle of the Billionaires, we won't one of us end up becoming president of the United States one day.
Or rumoured to buy Newcastle.
or rumoured to buy Newcastle. Still hoping for that one day that comes off. In fact, do you want to go first, Trice, with your selection?
Yeah, maybe it's a bit biased from who he is as a person, but I'm going to throw Nigel Adkins into the ring as my pick. The former Scunthorpe, Southampton, Hull City, Sheffield United manager. Mainly because I thought he was maybe too positive when he was Scunthorpe manager. He used to say, we're little Scunthorpe going up against the big dogs, and he did an absolute cracking job, and you don't realise what you've got until it's gone. And Nige was absolutely superb, taking a team to the championship the size of Scunthorpe twice, absolutely brilliant. And since he's out of work at the minute, but he's taking to Twitter every day and he's doing positive videos, like, he's having cups of positivity and stuff like that. He gives you a really good insight that going for walks and stuff like that. It's just about your mental health. I think he's absolutely superb.
Yeah,
I caught a glimpse of a few of his like Twitter videos like early on in lockdown Trice, and it was breakfast with Nige.
Yeah, breakfast
every
with
morning.
Nige. Yeah.
He'd be like, "Good morning, everybody. Breakfast with Nige," and he would give you a little like what his plan for the day was and how he started his day, and it was quite fulfilling, really.
So he does things like he's big on like routines and behaviours. So he'll say like, "Morning, viewers. Today I've got up, I've gone for a jog. It's all about routines, attitudes, behaviours," as my good friend Andy Crosby, my number 2, would say. He goes through this positive thing, but then like throws in his sort of like football league players who he's worked with. So like he was doing a Christmas calendar, so every day he opened an advent calendar, would talk about it. And when it was like number 10, he was like, "Billy Sharp, Gary Hooper, I've worked with some great number 10s."
He's currently without a club as well, isn't he? So
he should be in football somewhere.
Yeah,
he's doing well to like maintain his positive outlook, like not only with everything that's going on in the world, but when you're out of a job as well. That's remarkable. Like, hats off to him. That's a really strong selection, I think.
From one of the videos I saw, he was mentioning about some like the learning he's doing at the moment, something like a course that he was doing or leading or something, like sport related, football related. Think about like management skills and yeah, I think it's just an all right. Like, I think he just continues to develop other people. So sounds like he don't just if I'm out of contract, so I'll put my feet up and go to the beach. I think he's got spinning a lot of plates. So yeah, fair play to him.
No, that's an absolutely superb selection. You can't knock Adkins. He's just like, he just rebounds positivity all the time. Like, you can't knock him down.
Trice, I think like whenever Adkins isn't in a job, which he obviously hasn't been for a while, it's just such a shame that Scunthorpe aren't in like a competitive enough position to like warrant having him back as manager. Like, I just don't think you could be able to afford Scunthorpe would be able to afford him in League Two, and he'd probably want to manage at League Two. But if they were like sustainable League One club again, you'd just think like make it happen. Surely would he be interested?
At some point.
Yeah, and maybe he'd be happy to start in League One and push on back to the Championship, which is where he probably found his level. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, not just from the work he did at Scunthorpe, but he don't get credit enough for the job he did at Southampton. Really, I think it was positive. When Southampton were, sell-on clauses because they'd rather have the cash than wait for the value of that's how desperate for money they were. Like rock bottom of League One, and to blood players like Luke Shaw, 17 in League One, but Lallana and stuff like that. Ricky Lambert, who was obviously a proven goal scorer in the Football League, but to make that a team Premier League quality and go back-to-back promotion from League One to the Premier League, it was a brilliant achievement.
Yeah, that was some
harshest Premier League sacking ever for me. Nigel Adkins at Southampton. I know Pochettino obviously did a good job, so it kind of gets forgotten about because of how well Pochettino did. But actually, at the time, I remember just the next day they just drawn with Chelsea, hadn't they? They just drew 2-2 at Stamford Bridge, and like the next day he was sacked. I think
the biggest flaw he has is that's his positivity. He would have seen Southampton as underdogs and staying up and how positive it is to be in the Premier League and we're enjoying ourselves, whereas really Southampton probably thought we've got enough points now, we're more than just happy to be here. Thanks for your services, Nige.
I imagine he just like walked out the door just still been happy, like, oh, I've been
high-fived everyone.
Well, I'll see you around. It was a good job.
Yeah. Great bloke. What about you two? Who have you got in the ring?
So for mine's probably more of like a personal opinion rather than like an all-round like football opinion. And I know if anybody who's a Leeds fan would probably relate to it as well, in a sense of that it brings probably a bit of light to any miserable day. Actually, a runner-up in this, what I was going to bring out of retirement, Jack, an old friend of ours from university, ran the Positive Leeds fan account.
Oh yeah.
So that way, when we were proper, you could nail us on for 15th in the Championship every season, and that was a great account. I saw a tweet find the surface the other day about like we'd finally moved into like positive goal difference about 5 years ago. So while we were like 15th in the Championship, And I wish Toby still had that on the go, because that. Like, I think every Leeds fan needed that, but I've gone with Phil Hay as my positive like person in football, who I find a lot of like comfort in. Started out with just his so if anybody doesn't know, Phil Hay was the Yorkshire Evening Post chief like sports writer and basically covered Leeds United. Now moved on to the Athletic and heads up the Leeds United area with that, and he's originally from Scotland, but I think he's spent the last 10-15 years covering Leeds, so he just is the man in the know about everything. And it's if I could pick someone to just sit down with for 3 or 4 hours, I'd love to just sit with Phil and pick his brains. But yeah, I think over like the last 5 years, really, when Twitter's been such like a daily kind of go-to, is always there, and it's always just the insight into Leeds. It's always like quite an honest review, but someone who's not necessarily a Leeds fan, but I think's all really bought into it and found a bit of like an appreciation and love for the club. So he's always been a person like in foot. Like if one, I couldn't imagine like a Twitter like following Leeds on social media without Phil Hay. It would just be it would be a really sad day, and he's gone even better than that, because over the last year he's got a weekly podcast where he joins some guys who do a Leeds fan podcast, and you get a weekly insight into the goings on, and he also was previously doing like a fan selection, so he'd put up a post on say like the Tuesday and give you 3 options about like a previous story, and obviously there's a lot of rogue stories over the last 5 or 10 years, so it'd be down to the fans to choose what they wanted to hear about, and then they'd do a 20-minute segment and enlighten you all about why Massimo Cellino was chased around Ellen Road in a taxi, or like some home truths about Ken Bates, or why certain transfers didn't happen. So yeah, I think it's that podcast every Friday is I've listened to it probably. It's on the Friday it comes out, and I think just following the club is just it's made a lot easier at times when you've got Phil Hay, and I know every Leeds fan would definitely agree with that. So there's my like affection for Phil Hay, and I promise you I don't have posters of him on my wall and a tattoo of him down my belly. But
I have a niche memory of him, Dobby. Actually, I don't think I've ever followed him on Twitter, but he always pops up on my timeline through the amount of Leeds fans who I follow that like his tweets and stuff. But I remember being about 14 possibly, and having a conversation with you at like a house party when we were underage. And we're trying to find like the 5 people you'd have a dinner party with, and you said Phil Hay, who's the chief sports writer for the Yorkshire Evening Post, and then listed like 4 absolute uber celebrities, and Phil Hay, so you could just like, because at the time Leeds were just in a dire state, and like to you that person just brought you positivity in that darkness, really.
Yeah, I think.
Do you stand by that, Dobby? Would he still be one of you?
Oh,
dinner party guest.
100%. He'll get an invite to my wedding, whether he comes or not, I don't know. But I feel like, if I ever bumped into him in the street, I'd like to just go like, Phil, just thank you. Just keep doing what you're doing. You've got another 10, 20 years in you. Don't go anywhere.
He'll never leave, will he? You can't imagine him covering another club after. I mean, I'm not a Leeds
scandal ever
fan, but I've seen his coverage. Like, he's a brilliant local journalist, or was, and now like doing great stuff at the Athletic. And I don't know, there's something about him that's innately you just have to like him, even if you're not a Leeds fan. I just think he's a very likeable person on Twitter. And also now I've seen him in the flesh on the Leeds United documentary, which we've discussed on this podcast before. He has a great role in that. He's he's one of the stars of that for sure as well.
Have you heard much of him on podcasts before? He's featured on a few of the Athletic ones, like Mike Chapman and stuff.
Yeah, I think I've heard him on the EFL, their main EFL podcast.
Yeah. He comes across. He presents himself really well. Like you could listen to him. I think. Well, obviously there's a bias there, but. It's just a really in the know guy, but comes across really unbiased from his perspective, and I've always found a lot of comfort in having Phil there during a pretty crazy 5-10 years of following Leeds. So
thanks, Phil.
Yeah, cheers, Phil. And I'm sure everybody who listens to this who isn't a Leeds fan is thinking, like...
Get a grip, you sad bastard.
Yeah. Everybody who's followed it who's a Leeds fan will have a tear in their eye.
That's a good nomination, that, Dobby.
That is a great nomination, Dobby. I feel like it's you've captured the... It was an open-ended invite, almost, for who you wanted to choose. Like, it could have been anyone. We've both gone for quite sort of, like, quite left field, but I would say very strong suggestions. So, yeah, it's going to be hard to beat.
You gone for then, Jack? Who's your selection?
Well, my selection is a bit of it's an obvious one, really. It's not.
Mike Ashley.
I've gone too obvious in comparison. You two have both been quite clever with yours. I've gone for Bobby Robson, the late great Newcastle United manager, who he's no longer with us, but I still feel he's going to want to represent me in this triple threat. He's probably my biggest footballing hero, so I'm not sure that fits in with what we've been asking for here, but I think that just naturally, that's my sort of go-to in like difficult times when you think about the joy that football can bring you, and like just infectious love for the game. Like, he just had it in absolute bucket loads. One quick sort of like niche thing I should say, which just to give a bit of context, there was when we played Sunderland in sort of 2002, 2003 time, when Sunderland, I'm not being biased when I say this, they were pretty terrible. They actually got the record for lowest Premier League points, and we were in the Champions League places. We beat Sunderland 1-0 at the end of the season, and in his post-match interview, Bobby Robson, rather than talk about like what a big win it was, because it was like a chief rival, and like the hatred obviously between Sunderland and Newcastle, I don't really need to explain. I'm sure most listeners are aware of that, the animosity between the teams. But he just talks about, these are just great games for the public. These are great games for the North East. Like, and he said, like, there's a lot of keenness involved. I always remember him saying that. There's a lot of keenness involved. There's a bit of hatred, but we don't talk about those people. There's just a lot of keenness, a lot of good rivalry, and he was so positive about what is actually one of the most vicious football rivalries in the country. Like, and I just found that. And even after he left Newcastle, like he'd often attend Newcastle games, but he'd also be at Sunderland games, just like going to watch Sunderland, and he'd go and watch Durham County Cricket, and he just loved sport, really, which is probably why
Gateshead Athletic Stadium watching some javelin.
It wouldn't have surprised me if he was there, like down at Blythe Spartans one week. It was just, he had unbelievable love for the game and the North East in general, which is probably why I've picked him. But I just think it's funny, the positivity, his way of injecting positivity into the team. And also when he was England manager, this is a bit of a sidetrack story, but I'm going to go for it anyway. I don't know if you two are aware of this before, but when he was England manager before the 1988 European Championships, he organised. He had to, like each national team obviously plays a series of friendlies before a tournament. Bobby Robson organised England to play Aylesbury FC, who at the time were the equivalent of the 7th tier of English football, or 8th tier, I think.
No way.
Did either of you two know this before?
No, I didn't know that.
So England played Aylesbury in a friendly, like legitimate, won 10-0, I think, or 9-0. Peter Beardsley scored 4 goals. So he's one of the only England players to score 4 goals in a game.
It counts as an international fixture.
In Pele terms, he does.
Yeah. I don't think they got official caps for it, but he basically did it just to inject. He thought it'd inject some confidence into the boys before the tournament. And there's a brilliant, as a side shot for listeners, I won't play the clip now, but there's a brilliant Phoenix from the Flames YouTube clip from Fantasy Football Club where Frank Skinner and David Baddiel used to recreate classic clips, and they got Peter Beardsley to recreate his 4 goals against Aylesbury in that friendly. And just like as a joke at the start, they were like, "Who else did you play before the tournament, Peter?" And he like jokingly says, "A blind ladies team, Hartlepool under 5s, and Scotland," which is just like a great gag. And I just thought that occasion was so weird, but it just sums up like Bobby Robson's just wanting to. This will get a bit of positivity in the boys. We'll go out. We'll beat Aylesbury 8-0. I just think that's brilliant.
That is class.
Yeah.
In their article about this match, The Guardian have just written, for reasons best known to himself, Robson agreed to the fixture, but that summer's European Championships would begin badly for England, losing to the Republic of Ireland. They ended up losing every game of the tournament, so it didn't really help. But yeah, he's my selection for the triple threat.
Nice.
Oh, we've got ourselves a good battle on our hands here.
I mean, Adkins is just so well known for his positivity that
I've got a Twitter clip, Jack, that I sent you. If you hear that, I'm convinced you'd both choose Adkins.
I wouldn't argue against Adkins as in like the all-round Adkins is definitely the all-round kind of like positive guy, not just to certain people, but just I think if anyone stumbled across him, they would just be like, yeah, that guy's pretty positive.
I just feel like as well, not even in football, but in life, outside football, he's just there's no knocking him down. He's just completely you couldn't imagine him ever having like.
I suspect he just kind of gets out of bed in the morning and is just like, right then, let's crack on.
Embraces the day.
Yeah.
Just picks up his list that he's got at the side of his bed that he wrote at 9 p.m. the night before he turned his lamp on. Just things to do for the day.
Yeah.
Like, Adkins is definitely
riser.
a guy who makes a list and puts brush teeth on them just so he can get off to a good start. Just to like cross it off, like brush teeth, done that. Right?
Yeah.
Like
Go
at least
on.
we've done 1 of 10, so we're 10% of the way through the day.
Yeah, that is so true.
He's definitely one of them guys, which
Yeah, he's got like just positive spirit running throughout him, and I think particularly as he's he wins for me, Trice. I'll give you that. I think Phil Hay as well is a great shout. Like
we should have a European Championship type. Let's get 16 if we can, and then get them voting off against each other on Twitter. That would be a good thing to do.
Yeah. So we'll host an online tournament.
I think mine was slightly biased towards anybody Leeds supporting. I think it'd be tough to get on board with that if he wasn't a Leeds fan. But I think the relationship that the Leeds fan base has built with him.
I suppose we've all selected characters from our club, haven't we?
Exactly.
So,
But Adkins wins all round for me, I think. I can definitely get on board with Adkins, yeah.
So for the minute then, the most positive person in football is Nigel Adkins until proven otherwise.
Yeah. Potentially too positive to the point where, like, if you went on holiday with him for 2 weeks, you'd tell him to piss off after day 10. Piss off, Nige. Then you'd feel ridiculously guilty about it.
You'd have like a Mark Lawrence and Guy Mowbray style spat.
Fine.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm
think
fine,
so.
thanks, Nigel.
That's a great shout, Trice. Deserving winner. But yeah, let's take it to Twitter and see what everyone else's selections are, and then we can proceed. I feel already like slightly re-energized by this conversation tonight, but are we going to talk as well slightly just a little bit about any positive football memories that we want to bring up, sort of looking back? I suppose it's a bit of a time, but nostalgia's been the dominant theme of the past 12 months, really, and sort of going back and thinking about great moments in football. But do we have any that we want to bring to the table tonight?
Go on, Darcy, tears off, mate. I'm sure you've got some good ones.
So we're going with one playing, aren't we, and one spectating. So shall I go? Is that what we're going for?
Yeah.
Format-wise?
Yeah, let's why not?
Right. I'll go with my playing one then in my well-regarded footballing career at junior football level that never made it beyond that, really. So slim pickings. But I think my positive memory would probably be obviously. I think growing up in and around Scunthorpe, I spent a lot of time going to Glanford Park, and I think at the age of 10 was under no illusions that I'd never get to really play regular football at a stadia, in fact Glanford Park. So when at under 16 level we reached the regional cup final and got to play there and win the cup, I thought that was, in my playing career, probably a really nice moment, somewhere where, as a youngster, obviously watched a lot of football and obviously would have loved to have played at, and it was the first ground I ever went to in football as well, and for many years, the place I went most regularly. So playing there with my friends, like our team was literally, it was funnily enough, our team at the time was everybody in the squad bar one player went to Fredgoff School, and it was like one big friends group. So it was a really nice kind of moment to like be able to play there with my friends, win a cup, and like at Glanford Park. So and then it was only about a year after that when Carlin got introduced to my life, and all of a sudden I thought Wednesday night training, Saturday morning training, and Sunday games was just too much for a 17-year-old to be doing, and then that's when my retirement kicked in. So slim pickings, but I'm glad I got to have that day, and got to sit at Cliff Burns' peg in the Scunthorpe United changing rooms. Yeah.
Did you know it? How did you know it was his peg?
I think they literally penciled it on.
Cliff sits here.
I was expecting like Real Madrid's levels of like it's like a glass cabinet with his face on. Like,
I'm sure it was. I don't think I've made that up, but
that's a massive positive for you, Dobbs. That an absolute thrill. Like, it's not many people get to play on the same ground that they like grew up watching football. And I know obviously you went to like as many Scunthorpe games back then or more perhaps than you did Leeds games, didn't you? So it was like the place where you were being introduced to the game. So to go back, and also 16, you're old enough to appreciate it by that point, I think, as well. And I'm guessing you've still got some slim memories of it that Carling hasn't completely eliminated in the years since.
Yeah, I think we've got a DVD somewhere at my mum's house as well, so if anyone wants to borrow that, let me know.
I'd like to look at that. If any of the listeners want to get in touch about that, then we could do a sharing style rota for it. That's good. That's your playing memory of Trice. Do you want to throw in anything from... Are we doing playing first? Or?
Yeah, I'll go for my playing one then. I can still remember my first ever football game, and I think that's going to have to be my pick.
Wow, nice.
It was under fives we were playing in our local team, but there wasn't an under five age group set up then, like at the junior level. So we was playing like organised friendlies against older kids who didn't have a game that weekend. So we played a team who were like 2 school years above us, and we were absolutely buzzing to be just playing as a team for the first time. We got absolutely trounced to the point of where our keeper at the time, his dad had a word with our manager and said, I think you best take him off. He's told me he's not going to save anymore. This 5-year-old kid said that he's not going to say. Bearing in mind he's not got near anything all game. The scoreline's like 12-0 at this point or whatever it was. But we had, a team of 7-year-olds at that level should always beat a team of 5 and 4-year-olds. But we actually scored 2 goals, and I remember it's on video somewhere, and I'm sure I can get my hands on that, but. Yeah, my mate Christian scored, and literally the whole team. If you Tardelli's scream when he scores the winner for Italy, it's literally like loads of 5-year-olds going like, and just I think we did about 2 laps of the pitch just chasing each other because Christian had scored, and. Obviously, the game's been filmed, so we all just looking at the camera and it's maybe I think that was maybe to make it something daft, like 10-1 or 10-2 or something daft. But first goal in football that I ever was part of. A superb memory.
That's brilliant.
That's amazing, Troy.
Let's make it 12-1, Christian.
Big moment. It's a bit like earlier I was watching obviously Tottenham versus Marine in the FA Cup, and it's like if Marine would have scored even one at 5-0, that I imagine the celebrations would have still been perhaps not to that level, but they still would have
been pretty crazy. That reminded me though, Trice. I can remember my first game now actually. And,
Go on.
I remember turning up and we didn't have this is literally the first game, and we were really young, and we didn't have a kit, so there's just this bag kind of arrived of the year or 2 above us old kit, so you just pulled this pulled one out the bag, and I remember it just being massive on me, and it was absolutely minging this shirt. Now thinking back, and I think we won 4-2, and I remember, I can't remember the score, but I remember scoring one, and then I remember volleying a goal for a second, but volleying at the same time as someone else who both technically scored. And then I cried because I wanted the goal, and we weren't sure whose goal it was going to be. We both cried because we both wanted the goal. So I remember that. I remember scoring, just wanting the goal and crying, but then the other lad being in the same situation and crying.
Was it ever revealed? Like, was it ever decided whose goal it was?
I can't remember. We were literally probably like 6 years old or something ridiculous. So, and that is all I remember. And then I don't think I've ever scored 2 goals again in my life since then. So it got off to a good start.
You peaked at that moment, Dobby.
So this is all right. This football stuff. We'll be all right here. And then that was it. Downhill from there.
Go on, Jack. Give us yours. What was your positive playing memory?
Well, actually, just on the theme of first games, firstly, I think we definitely need the footage of both the games you've referenced. I can't believe that there is footage exists of them, but we definitely need to see it for our social media. What are we doing? So this is my pick from playing. I mean, just on the topic of first games, I remember my first game for our junior team. Then I was a bit older than you two. Both said you're about 5 or 6. It was actually under 9s before we made our debut as a team, so quite late. But I remember when it was obviously 0-0, and you don't really know like the level of sort of everyone, the standard that everyone's at. But we scored the first 2 goals, and my mate Lewis, who scored the first 2 goals, who would end up scoring a lot of our goals. But when he scored, he didn't really celebrate, which was like a common theme of his football career. He never really celebrated his goals, but I obviously didn't know this at the time, it being our first game. So I just went absolutely nuts, even though it was like a 1-0 lead. Like after only about 10 minutes of the game, I went absolutely ballistic, like screamed, ran shouting after him, like yeah, come on, like going absolutely mental. And I can only describe it as, if anyone's seen the footage of when Ben Ainsley wins his Olympic gold medal in London 2012, and Rob Walker, the sports presenter, sat on the boat with him, and Rob Walker's just far more excited than Ben Ainsley is, and he's to the point where he's like shaking him, saying, "You just become the greatest Olympic sailor in British history, Ben." And he's just like, "Yeah, get off." Like that was sort of what our first goal was like in that game with me and Louis. So yeah, that's my memory of my first game, really.
Nice.
I did have another memory, but to be honest, I'm not sure if it'll fit in as well as like the ones you two have picked. And
well,
I mean, we said,
what was it? Just like a really good tackle?
No, it was. I mean, it was more than that, but it did involve. It was sort of a lot later. My memory of playing was going to be from 2019, which is only 2 years ago now compared to you two. So,
go on, please share.
Well, we did say we were going to do an episode as well where we talked about our playing respective like playing experiences. Maybe I'll dive into it more in that. Yeah, but basically, it was the goals Newcastle 7-aside final day of the season. We just needed a draw to clinch the league. The team we were playing, you know, when you're playing a game, and I'm sure you've both experienced it, where the other team's just unnecessarily aggressive. You particularly get a lot of these in like small-sided football. Well, you get them in 11-a-side as well, I guess. But just like very over-the-top physical, like in the referee's face from the word go. And you know, like where you just sort of think, what the fucking hell's going on here? Like, what have we done to this group?
Am I going to get out like unscathed?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you run to your car, lock the doors, and just be like, fucking hell.
It was one of them, Dob. It was a bit like in our first year at university when we came up against a similar aggressive bunch of lads. It was a similar experience to that, really. But anyway, we needed a draw. We were 3-2 down with about 5 minutes to go. And I managed to sort of get on a little bit of a run, go past a couple of players. And the only reason I enjoyed it so much was because they were just trying to foul, just by their aggressive nature. That, you know, like where they're just trying to bring you down rather than actually play the ball. managed to skip through them, and just like their keeper came out, and I just saw a teammate to my right who I just slipped the ball to, so we had an open goal, an easy goal, and we got a 3-3 draw. One of their players got sent off in the aftermath for abusing the referee and just being far too aggressive. So then there was this brilliant scenario where we only needed a draw to win the league. They I should have pointed out, if they'd have won the league, so they were going for the title as well. But we could just wind them up in the final 4 minutes or however long was left by just keeping the ball and just playing keep ball with a man extra in small-sided football, which was... it was just. You probably had to be there, to be honest. Now I'm describing it, but it was just. It was a great moment. And that night, I'd actually rushed back up because I've been home for the weekend, so I barely made the kick-off. Drove like an absolute madman to get from Lincolnshire to Gosforth Goals,
Wow.
which was 2.5 hours on the dot. Like, really had to push it on the motorway.
Did you have to stop at services to stretch off?
No, I
Put your shin pads on.
I stopped at Washington Services, Dobbs, just so I could Google map the quickest way to Gosforth, and also just quickly stretch my legs, and then But I got there literally. The teams were out on the pitch already. I had to sprint through. There wasn't even time to pay. I just had to sprint, get on the pitch, and ended up going out for a tapas meal that night. So in Newcastle. So
lovely.
It was just a great day. And like I said, it doesn't really. I feel I shouldn't have really brought this up because it doesn't fit in with the two memories you've gave of.
It's positive, yeah. That's what it's all about.
It's not exactly like memories of you playing youth team football as a kid, and I'm talking about one from last year in my 20s. But anyway,
they all count, Jack.
Yeah, we can dive into our careers more on another episode.
Before we move on, just from positive, because of our positive playing experiences, just a very quick shout out to kids football tournaments. How unreal were they?
Yeah,
they were the best days ever.
Out, weren't they? In the summer as a kid, yeah. You could go, you could go for a burger, but then you'd have an important group game 20 minutes later. It's just...
Kids walking back at kids literally just finishing an ice cream, burger and chips, and then we've got a game 30 seconds later.
3 kids had come back with spray paint in their hair. Gonna have to get some spray in the club colours.
It was always the buzz of setting up a gazebo at 8 o'clock in the morning, and just beautiful sunny day, which you don't get many of them.
There's always some kids who'd come with proper cooler boxes full of food, and then you'd have some kids who literally just come with just a bit of change for the burger van.
Yeah.
And
they were lucky to get a lift there in the first place, and they're just sort of surviving for the day. Yeah.
I used to buzz for them so much. Look, if I could ever get excited again, that excited for something again, I'm pretty impressed. Definitely.
You're talking about anything now, Dobby, outside of football.
Yeah, just anything, yeah.
Yeah, no, they
on
were
a scale of 0 to night before football tournament. How excited are you for something?
If you won them as well, the day it'd be such a triumphant day. You'd still be there at 4 o'clock. Most people have gone home, and you're just still out there slogging away. Yeah, no, I absolutely love those days as well. Bring them back in the post-COVID world. Have we got any sort of positive memories not from playing? I mean, or is that yours, Dobby?
Just positive, just everything. So I'll get us going again then on so mine being from a spectating point of view, and not a lot to shout about on field really. Recent promotion had to be experienced from home for Leeds, or from the Box Sports Bar in Leeds City Centre at social distance. So sadly that should be at top of the list, but I don't think I can really put that in there. So I decided I was going to go with my first away game watching Leeds as being a great memory. So this was against Middlesbrough back at the Riverside on the Saturday 5:30 kickoff. This was the Simon Grayson era, so the first season back in the Championship, when we had the likes of Becchio and Snodgrass, Howson, Bradley Johnson. So that season we finished 7th, just missed out on playoffs. So we were in a good place, but we've just been promoted, and a bit of optimism, which soon faded. But so that was the first actual away game that I went to, and it just opened up my eyes really to a whole new way of experiencing football. Any games I'd been to prior to that, away games even, were Scunthorpe United related, and I'd been some brilliant games watching Scunthorpe, but I think the scale of it is just completely different and uncomparable. Just that feeling of like 5:30 kick-off. I was only maybe 14, 15 at the time, so relatively young. 5:30 kick-off, 5,000 fans behind the goal. Obviously, a good amount of them would have been out on the booze all day. The atmosphere was pretty electric, and that kind of introduction to like no one sat down, whether you're 95 years old or 5 years old. It's like you're on your feet, and like everybody is like just the atmosphere was unbelievable, and even in the like the concourse as well. Like you went down to like the loos or whatever, and it was just absolute carnage down there. And I was just like Ellen Road's always a great buzz when you go there, and I love Ellen Road. But I think the experience you get from an away game it's absolutely amazing. And yeah, I've still not lost that buzz for it really. But that first exposure to it was just like, wow, this is pretty amazing. And especially because it was quite late, I was like 14, 15. I've obviously been at football for a while, so it was kind of like pretty comfortable with football and the go into it, but then all of a sudden this new exposure to a different area was nice. And yeah, we came away with a win as well, 2-1, and Luciano Becchia scored a nice volley to get the winner, and yeah, it went off pretty big. So that's definitely one of my fondest memories, and I'd love to. I think the nice thing is with that, when I go to like away games, and you still do get that buzz really. They're a great feeling. But yeah, I'm going to put that forward as my nomination as one of my most positive spectated memories.
No, that's a great selection. I the same. I think there's something about an away day in there that just, particularly when you've not experienced many of them before, and it's like a different world almost. Even to you can absolutely love going at home and having a season ticket or whatever, but then it's like just that the experience of being in a away end, feeling like you're really part of something, if that makes sense. And and just if a goal goes in, it's like if you take the lead in the away end, it's just an eruption in it. So that's a great selection.
It's pretty mad when you just think about it, and like if you try to explain it to someone who just landed on planet Earth, and you're like, essentially there's going to be 530 means time on the beer, 5,000, well obviously blokes, ladies, kids, and everyone's just like there for one thing, and like pretty like ruthlessly like backing the team, like with great atmosphere. I think it's just such a weird thing to like explain to someone, but at the same time you just feel so like comfortable in it, and just get really immersed in it, don't you? I think anybody would. I think that's the brilliance of football. It doesn't matter who you kind of support. If you could just be within that moment at them places, I think anyone would appreciate it and just be like, fucking hell, like wow.
It's one of the like genuinely unique things that football's got. Like most other sports, fans sit together and stuff. So even if you're supporting opposing teams or individuals or whatever, so yeah, I completely agree. That's a brilliant shout. Trice, have you got anything you want to bring to the table?
Yeah, it's already been mentioned a little bit tonight. Cliff Byrne, so obviously Scunthorpe fan. For those that don't know, Cliff Byrne is probably a limited footballer, and he knows his limitations, but he's probably what you'd describe as an honest pro. And he was Scunthorpe's captain in 2009, the team that had been relegated from the Championship, were fighting back for promotion in League One. And it was around the time as well where, just to set the scene, where people were starting to have opinions that fullbacks should be, wingers. Danny Alves was setting the bar. All of a sudden, people want more from the right back at Scunthorpe. And Scunthorpe probably should have got automatic promotion that year, but they sort of halted a little bit in the middle of the season. And it went to the last day where Scunthorpe needed a draw, Tranmere needed to win, both playing each other at Glanford Park. Whoever did their job would be in the playoffs. And in the Tranmere went 1-0 up, and then in the 92nd minute, someone who'd been slated all season for just doing his job pretty much. He was a solid right back. Popped up and scored his first goal of the year, bullet header, and it was one of the only times as a fan at Glanford Park where I've you sit there at Glanford Park sometimes, and you're sometimes jealous of an away end. The away end looks better than what the home end is. I don't know if you two have ever thought that. I've been games there, but it was one of the only times I've been to Glanford Park and thought, God, that is special. That what a moment for someone that lives in the area. His kids go to the school in the area, and he came over from Ireland and has bought into played 10 years at the club and all that stuff. Just absolute.
Yeah, it was great service.
I mean, there are moments like that for every club, but for me, that was just like something that wasn't televised. It wasn't mainstream, but it was just an absolute beautiful moment at the time. And I still remember going absolutely mad at that goal. And Cliff Byrne didn't know how to celebrate. He didn't know what had happened. It was just like a pure Irish grunt coming through his body. So that'd be mine, and that sort of was the catalyst to go into a playoff semi-final against MK Dons, and then a final against Millwall where we actually got promoted. And probably the best season I've experienced as a fan, that League One promotion campaign.
Yeah.
Was that 2008-2009 Trice?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
I saw a lot of that season as well, Trice, and I think if you could ever get a team with that kind of bond again and that ability again, and that season they had, you'd be lucky, wouldn't you? Almost, it feels like you'd. It felt like one of them seasons where, in a few years really for Scunthorpe, wasn't it? It spanned over 3 or 4 years where there was a bit of consistency really in the squad, and they were a bit ambitious and they definitely punched above the weight, but. Yeah, I went to that. I was at that game you mentioned, and I couldn't agree more with you. I thought it was such a fairy tale moment. I know, and like you say, every club has them, but when you're kind of, it's just nice that
it's never
you have your own. Yeah.
It sort of feels like there's always one moment for Birmingham fans. They stayed up last day. I remember that. It always seems like there's never. I mean, obviously, I could have picked a memory from watching England and stuff like that of an ace experience like that. They'd been close there, obviously the World Cup, that was mad. 2018, me and you, Dobby, we went to England, Scotland, but I think if I'm being honest, that's probably the best noise I've experienced, and the most joy I've ever got at a game, probably.
That I remember, that was a great moment. And I think with things like that as well, it's one of them where in that day or so, it would have been recognised around the UK, as in Sky Sports News, the papers and stuff would have been this great thing's just happened, the 88th minute decider in a playoff battle. But then that would have then been as the saying goes, the next day's fish and paper that's used fish and chips wrapping or whatever you call it. I don't know what the saying is, but then for you that memory's. That news. But for the rest of the world, the rest of the UK, that then becomes irrelevant. But then for you, that just stays. That'll stay with you for a lifetime. And then the conversations will crop up with people like myself or your friends and family who were there as well. And you'll always share that moment. And people, was it Watford who went on the break against Leicester and they had that great moment. And again, you have these every season, probably at different clubs. And there's countless ones that everybody other than that club's forgotten about, and there'll be another one this season, there'll be another one next season. But I think it's when you have that yourself, it's a great feeling, isn't it? And I can get on board with that. I was at that game, and you couldn't write it any better, really, could you?
Definitely not. No, great times. Jack, go on, tee us up for your positive memory, mate, as a fan.
Yeah, well, we're
I mean, you support Newcastle, so we're...
Yeah. It's going to be tricky.
9th place.
Yeah. Great.
We had a shot against Arsenal in the FA Cup.
I hope it's a Ryan Taylor free kick.
Oh, I'll tell you what, the Ryan Taylor over the wall against the Mackhams, that was a great moment. I was on holiday for that day, and when that nestled, that was still the last time we beat them. So
really,
so that was a good time. Well, we haven't played them for 5 years now, but
yeah, true.
But it's difficult doing one from Newcastle for me. I don't really. Again, you two have proven hard to follow on basically everything we've done tonight. I'm sort of I'm struggling a bit. The 4-4 draw against Arsenal was like an amazing moment because it's just. I know I go on about it quite a bit, but it's like when your team's 4-0 down in the 70th minute, you just that just
there's no chance.
You turn off. If you're neutral, you turn off the game at that point, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
The team.
I thought it was half time. I didn't realise that.
No, that's what's often forgotten, Trice. That it was not just a first half and second half thing, but it was like Arsenal were 4-0 up inside 12 minutes or 13 minutes in the first half, and we didn't start scoring until the 70th or 69th maybe. It was maybe 69th or 68th, but I think it was 70th minute, although we did get 2 dodgy penalties. So anyway, I wasn't even going to choose that one actually. I was going to choose a few seasons after that, after an unbelievably shit run of form, even for Newcastle by Newcastle standards, we got dragged into a relegation fight on the final day. We never should have been there, but just the form under John Carver it was the worst time I've ever had going to the game every week. Because obviously I was at university then, living in the city, I had a season ticket, and just going to the match every week then it was so depressing for that period, because it wasn't even like we were losing every game, but there was a chance we'd win. Like we'd be comfortably beaten every week and like not even look like winning. That's why it was so deflating. And from being like top 8 at the turn of the year, we were suddenly fighting for our lives on the last day of the season. We had to stay up. I don't know if either of you two have been to a game where you're in a relegation battle on the last day of the season, but there's something different, or there was to me anyway, about the crowd. Like it felt so much more tense. I was nervous. I couldn't even really drink before the game, which was really unusual. We'd always go to a pub before a game normally, but actually that day I remember just going into my seat like half an hour, 20 minutes before kickoff, and just to calm myself for what was ahead, because I just couldn't even
do some breathing techniques.
I couldn't even focus on anything but the game. So it was like going for a walk or not being in the pub wouldn't have achieved anything anyway. So I just went to my seat like really early.
Just like, right, let's just get ready, get this over and done with, and then we'll deal with the aftermath afterwards.
You know, like when Sky Sports are broadcasting way too early for like an hour-long pre-match build-up, and you see one fan sat in there an hour before. That was me that day, just in my Newcastle shirt, sat listening to music. And yeah, we managed to stay up. We won the game. Like Jonas Gutierrez scored the second goal, who'd like come back from cancer over the course of the season, which
great
was like,
story.
It was just like an amazing moment, and not only just because, not even like the thing is, he had a serious illness and he came back, but also like he was a loved person at the club back then. Like he was a proper player who the fans just absolutely adored, and like Argentinian, had like a real good spirit to his game, like loved to tackle, loved just tracking back, and he was like a really good defensive midfielder in a way, like even though he was a wide player. And just him scoring that second goal, I love Jonas, and it was just like, it was such a massive moment. It was like you just feel that relief of a whole stadium around you just exploding, and then like the final whistle was amazing, because it was as loud as I'd heard it in a long time. It was really euphoric moment, but then like quickly the chants turned towards like the "Get out of our club" chant aimed at Mike Ashley, which obviously was like a reminder, like, we've had
resumed.
It's like we've had an enjoyable day. Like we needed to stay up. This is like, but we shouldn't be in this position. We're having to fight relegation. So it was just like that reminder of that. It was just quite I don't know. It's just a bit of a weirdly moving moment that the fans started singing that not long after the final whistle. We ended up getting relegated the season after, so it didn't end that well. But that was an amazing day to be in the stadium. So that would be my selection.
Yeah.
But there could have been so many. I think we could do. With both the playing and the memories as a fan, we probably could devote our own episodes to these, because there's so many to choose from, I guess, for all of us. But yeah, I've enjoyed that tonight, boys. That has definitely lifted my spirits after a seriously shit week. So thank you both for joining me in the virtual bar. Should we do it again next week? Are we good to go again?
I think so, yeah. Let's get it penciled in. But likewise, enjoyed that one.
I did. I thought it was really
much
nice,
needed.
wasn't it?
Hopefully, it was a bit light-hearted for the listeners and stuff like that. If there's any heavy stuff at the moment,
yeah. Hopefully, if it does give you a little bit of enjoyment at the moment, then it means a lot to us, and it's just good for me. I know it's good for me to do it, and I'm sure it's the same for you boys. But that's it. for this week. So yeah, keep in touch on social media, and we'll see you ahead of the next episode. See you next week, boys.
See you, mate.
Cheers.
See ya.
See ya.
To conclude this week's episode, here's a positive message from Trice's selection, Nigel Adkins.
Good afternoon, everybody. Trust you're all keeping well. Well, there we are. We start again. Backs against the wall. Prime Minister addressed the nation last night and announced we're going to go into another national lockdown. I've just come in from that afternoon walk and I've got a cup of tea. An afternoon cup of tea, but it's an afternoon cup of positivity. I think we all need to have a bit of positivity in our lives. The days are getting lighter. The vaccination, the game-changing vaccination is getting rolled out across the world. You know, it's so important. It's the game changer for us. We've got to make sure we stay in the game though. Don't think you're on your own. There's plenty of numbers out there and organisations are there to help you. So pick the phone up, seek advice, seek help if you can. But importantly, be the one who's the positive one who picks the phone up to his mate and makes sure he's all right. Now, I appreciate that there's so many different challenging situations out there that we maybe can't even comprehend. But all we can do is just do our little bit to help the people that we know, keep everybody safe and just keep them motivated as any way as we can. I find from my own personal point of view, having a morning routine helps set me up for the day. We're all unique. We all got a different way of doing things. But for me, if I get my morning routine right, it sets me up to then go and attack the day. As I say, control the controllables. It's always a phrase I like doing. So control the controllables. A mid-morning cup of coffee. Have a coffee, pick the phone up, speak to your friend. Talking's brilliant. Make sure they're all right. We've got to keep connected with everybody. Loneliness is a dangerous thing. So keep connected with everybody. So I like going out, exercising. I've been out for a walk today. So important for the body and the mind. I've had a good chat on the phone with Andy Crosby. I was talking football. It's good to catch up with. He's been a great colleague of mine, a great friend. We've enjoyed talking. So, but listen, we're in it together. We've got to keep smiling. We've got to find a way. Afternoon cup of tea. Teacup. Think correctly under pressure. But an afternoon cup of tea. Keep ourselves smiling. We'll get through this together.